Hi, everybody. I'm Paulo. I'm going to talk about governance, and it kind of suits the last panel as well. So my talk is called Governance is the Endgame. You know, sometimes we're trying to govern ourselves, and it looks like this. Just chaos. That's how usually the DAOs operate. You know, because governance is messy, politics is messy, coordination is messy. Sometimes we get scared as a group. Collaboration is also messy. Sometimes we bite, sometimes we lick. You know, some love and some... Cooperation is also messy. We get in each other's ways all the time. And we need to figure it out. And conflict is also messy. Governance is a messy, chaotic, sloppy, turbulent business. But I think it is the end game, because if we don't figure out how to govern ourselves as a species, we're pretty fucked. And so I believe that blockchains, specifically public blockchains, were created not because we needed a better form of money, but we needed a better form to govern ourselves. That's why I'm in crypto. It's the end game for humanity. Just yesterday, the New York Times posted this piece about how AI is starting to wear down democracy. The previous panel was talking about this. It's an interactive piece where you have a world map with specific cases where there was, election interference with AI. If you look at the map, there's a very specific point in the map for Romania. And the third paragraph in the article says, in Romania, a Russian influence operation using AI attempted the first round of last year's presidential elections, according to government officials. A court there nullified that result, forcing a new vote last month, bringing a new wave of fabrications. It was the first major election in which AI played a decisive role in the outcome in this country. Who voted in the presidential elections in November and December? How did you feel when your vote was not counted? It didn't matter? Yeah. It wasn't on the blockchain, so. It's unlikely to be the last case of AI meddling with elections. In 1947, a distinguished gentleman said that democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others. And we still haven't figured out a better way in the last 60-something years. But I think that's what we should focus on with blockchain and with the crypto space. So I'm into DAOs. I joined the crypto space in 2016 because of the DAO. And I'm currently a delegate at Arbitrum DAO. And I also build tools for DAO people. And the reason why I'm a delegate and I'm participating in DAO governance is because we can experiment with democratic processes and governance processes in DAOs currently. The guy from Arbitrum community tweeted this a while ago, and I said that stress testing governance systems should be our love language as a species if we want to learn new ways to govern ourselves. I designed tools for DAO people. I'm building proposals.app, and I'm also a small delegate in Arbitrum where people always say that I ask too many questions and I poke too many bears in the DAO, but that's how I like to do it. You kind of spoiled my talk, by the way. Who here has joined the DAO before? Okay. Who has voted on an on-chain DAO proposal? Okay, cool. Who has created, published, and passed the proposal in the DAO? Okay, two crazy ones, nice. And who has created a governance framework for a DAO? Good. Okay. So you know how hard it is to figure this out. So what is governance in this weird, long, hard to say word, right? The specific definition is the structures, processes, and traditions that determine how power is exercised, stakeholders have their say, decisions are made, and decision makers are accountable. But if you look at this from a more meta, zoomed out perspective, it's all about how we make decisions. And specifically how we make decisions as a group, right? So the way through which we make decisions is actually a very specific thing that we should pay very much attention to and set up in our groups. The thing is that when we are in a group, and we've all experienced this, a group of friends trying to decide where to go for dinner, for choosing a restaurant, and someone wants pizza, someone else wants something else, right? It's chaos, even in that small microcosms. So whenever there's a group of people, everybody's trying to push for their own, agenda, tastes, preferences, and it's very hard to coordinate and to sync everybody to make the decision together. But the thing is that even within a single individual, we also have this struggle within ourselves to try to figure out, should I follow this or should I follow this in most decisions in our lives? And this is also a struggle. So now when you compound the individual struggle of making decisions and the group struggle of making decisions, it will be just a very big mess. So you can see that there's a reason why we haven't figured out how to govern ourselves properly yet. It's because we individually are a mess, and so in a group it compounds and it's a mess squared, or even more than squared. So honestly, I think that the take that we should have is that governance will always be messy. There's never going to be a silver bullet that can solve governance. And we should treat it as a wicked problem, as a problem that we can maybe manage a bit better. Usually, nowadays in DAOs, if you want to figure out... Wait. I went too fast. Usually in DAOs, if you want to figure out what happened with the DAO proposal, you have to go through a bunch of tools. The video is not playing, but don't worry. You have to go through a bunch of tools, and you have to figure out information in a bunch of places to understand what happened with a specific proposal, and everything is scattered all over the place, and it's a mess. So what should we do about it? We should build better tools, basically. That's my take, at least. And we should build better products, we should build better businesses, we should build better organizations, communities, networks, apps. And I've been building an app called Proposals.app that aggregates all the information about DAO proposals in the same place, so that people that need to decide and vote can go to a single page and see all the comments, all the votes, all the conversation about a specific proposal, and can basically decide for themselves how they should vote. So you can browse. This is exclusively for Arbitrum DAO right now. So you can go to a proposal, you can see the text of the proposal, you can see the several versions of the proposal, you can see the differences on the versions, why people edited some places and added and deleted some parts. Sometimes there's very little, differences in like the amount that people want to pay themselves, and it's interesting to see the difference of the number. You can see what everybody talked about this proposal, all the comments, also filtered by voting power and the votes of everybody else. And you can also see the results for the different types of voting that each proposal goes through, either off-chain voting or on-chain voting or several off-chains and so on. And so one small little way to make this better, make this mess of governance better, is to build tools that improve the process a little bit. And that's what we're trying to do with Proposals.app. One specific thing that we have is that we show deleted posts. So on the forum, usually whenever a post is deleted, it disappears forever. We are at least showing that there was a discussion And at this point in the discussion, a post was deleted, either because it was censored by the forum admins or because the author decided to delete it. And in this particular proposal that I'm showing on the screen, there was a big debate about this because it's a $200 million fund that was funded and hasn't produced that much of value yet, and people were trying to cancel it. And so the discussion was maybe censored. And also bringing these tools to the platforms that people already use. So usually most DAOs have a forum where people discuss on the forum, but the discussion on the forum is segregated and it only happens on the forum. We're also trying to bring more information and more context about DAO proposals and DAO votes on the forum itself, where we would show each comment with the voting power as well, so that we can see that bigger delegates maybe are saying something with more weight behind their words than smaller delegates as well. This is going too fast. We did a little manifesto a while ago, and if you remember the situation in Romania and how you felt when your vote was not respected, I think it's important to understand that when human beings express their will through a vote, there is a very important voice that should be honored and should be protected. And public blockchains are the tool that we invented as a species to protect that voice. And the vote is sacred and should be treated as sacred. And the proposal is divine, because when you try to propose something and improve something, you should treat that as, your divine goal. So we should build apps, better apps, we should fund better apps, and we should support better apps as well. And you've probably seen the logos Zine that's out there, where in a certain place it has this quote. We are in crypto, or we should be in crypto, to create a better system. And I think it's a good reminder to think about that a network of builders that are building stuff and are unstoppable in building stuff beats a nation of bureaucrats. So that's it. Thank you.
Vitalik, so there's one question. I'll read it out loud, but please think about questions, and I'll walk around with the mic, give it the opportunity.
Yeah, I can answer that one. Yeah, well, first of all, Vitalik is talking a lot of shit about DAOs recently, and he has not participated in many DAOs, which pisses me off because he should be in the forum commenting as well. But he is right. So he said that we should burn DAOs to the ground and start over a few weeks ago. And the current state in DAO land is a bit, it's bad. So yeah, we should start over. One way that we could start over is including AI governance, and there's a few experiments in that regard. In Arbitrum DAO, there's an experiment called Event Horizon, where they're trying out creating, so I'm a delegate at Arbitrum DAO. They are trying out to create an agent that is the Paulo Fonseca agent that would vote on proposals and comment on proposals as I would do from my track record in history. That's going to be interesting. There's also other experiments in AI governance in NEAR and also in some other DAOs. I think we need to design this very carefully. There's a very serious risk of this running off track, but I think it is not a technical problem, but more of a design problem. Usually, we cannot let AI decide stuff because there's no accountability for that decision. We, as humans, only respect when other humans decide stuff, because if that decision is wrong, we can point out who was the fucker that ruined it, right? And with AI, we cannot do that. So we still need to keep the accountability aspect of decision making. So a human still has to do the final decision, but there's a bunch of landscape where AI can help us to make decisions in an easier way, or in a more comprehensive way. One of the experiments also that's going on that I would like to shout out is something that an organization, a non-profit actually, called the Society Library is doing, where they are mapping out debates about issues, and they scrape the internet for content, and they basically create this tree of arguments pro and against a certain issue. The best example that they have was about the nuclear power plant in California, if it should close or it should remain open. And there's like 8,000 arguments pro and against, and all the evidence is linked. So you can see that debate map and figure it out for yourself how you should decide if you should vote for it to remain open or for it to close. And they're automating that process with AI, so that's also a good, cool experiment.
Thank you for that. Oh, there's another question. Would you like me to read it? Oh, you can answer.
Can DAOs really scale to replace nation-state governance, or do you see them more as complementary systems? There are people creating DAOs for things that they should not create a DAO for. Okay, that's the first issue. But more and more, I think we're getting to a point in the real world governance where we are not trusting the institutions that govern us, and so we should create something else. I'm not sure if it's going to be a DAO, and I'm not sure if it's going to be nation-state size, but there's a bunch of experiments in network states and so on, where they will be governed as DAOs, and with the processes, traditions, and tools that DAOs are now prototyping and experimenting with. And I do think that if we look at DAOs as the test bed for democracy, as in we can actually test how to govern ourselves and using DAO technology to do it, and using the stakes of whatever is at stake in the particular DAO, we can learn how to govern ourselves in bigger and bigger scales and make that test bed bigger and bigger. But I also I'm not sure if we want nationwide sized DAOs, or EU-wide or worldwide DAOs. I think that's not an efficient form of government. I think a better form of governance is more local and more customizable to people that are value aligned to particular things. And maybe it's not going to be bound by territory. Maybe it's going to be bound by values and principles more than anything else.
We have a question.
There's another one there.
Here, yeah.
Thank you. So most DAOs, especially in our space, were built because they're based on Eleanor Ostrom's theories, right, around socio-ecological systems. She talks a lot about the tragedy of the commons. What's your solution to resolve the tragedy of the commons? And yes, I do have 3 more zines if you guys want to read it.
All right, yeah. A friend of mine that is into DAO governance as well, every time he hears the expression tragedy of the commons, he gets really pissed off, because the etymology of that expression is really, really bad. I encourage everybody to Google where that expression came from. And it's not nice at all. But there's a corollary to it, which is the tyranny of structurelessness, meaning if you have a group of people trying to govern themselves without structure, things will go bad. Which also there's an opposite theory to that, which is the tyranny of tyranny, right? There's a reason why we are trying to invent new forms of governing ourselves, and it's because somehow some of us feel that the current governance that we are subject to is tyrannic. And so the argument of the tragedy of the commons and the argument of the tyranny of structurelessness is usually used to justify centralizing power also in DAOs. I do think that most DAOs are not well structured and are not well run and are not efficient. But also we should use the DAO technology and stack for very few things in what we're currently using. Most of the DAOs that we have today were created because the companies that launched them wanted some, regulatory, legal arbitrage to not go to jail when they launch a token. And we're now seeing, since Trump is in power, that those teams don't feel like they need to, be so decentralized, and they are coming back and clawing back control of the DAOs and centralizing the DAOs. And so maybe they shouldn't have been DAOs in the first place, right? So there's, in my opinion, there's very few things that should be governed as a DAO. The current landscape of DAOs that we have is very, it was created for the wrong reasons, let's say. But we should design that. We should be able to design DAOs in a way that we won't fall into the tragedy of the commons mindset. Yeah.
One more question. What do you think is the biggest mistake DAOs make when they try to govern better?
Mixing financial incentives with governance. So, yeah, maybe I can tell a story from last week. So I'm a delegate in Arbitrum DAO, which means that I get paid for following proposals, giving feedback on proposals, and voting on proposals. And every month I get paid according to my performance as judged by a committee that was hired to literally go through every forum comment and rate the quality of every forum comment of every delegate. And so every month I get a score of my delegate activity and I get paid accordingly to that. So I'm being financially incentivized to participate in DAO governance. I did a comment last month where I criticized someone else in the DAO. And that comment was deemed a violation of the code of conduct, which it wasn't, okay? But the people that are managing that, they decided that it was. Which means that literally because they decided that my comment was too harsh or too critical of this other entity that's participating in the DAO, I earned $1,000 less last month than what I should have. And it feels really dystopian to figure out that my salary of being a DAO delegate is dependent on someone feeling that what I said was too critical or too harsh. So right now, in DAOs, mixing financial incentives with people that are trying to govern the DAO is a very tricky situation. And all DAOs are trying to figure out how they should incentivize delegates, and the systems and the processes that we're coming up with are really crazy. And my stance, my particular personal stance is, I want to fuck with this until we learn and we get better systems. And maybe that's why I do comments that are a bit controversial and and try to improve the systems. And maybe that's why there's going to be a proposal to change this program in a different way.
Thank you for that. We have
Anything else?
time for one more question. Anyone else?
Does it make sense to decentralize governance when enforcing bodies remain centralized?
When what, sorry?
Does it make sense to decentralize governance on a grander scale when the enforcing bodies, be that the police, the army, remain centralized?
Yeah, we should decentralize that as well.
How would you go about it?
We should create our own private drone armies and AI-driven guns and... What do you want me to say? Yeah? I mean, we should use technology to also decentralize that. That's it.